Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's 2000 on a Sunday night, and that means you are plugged into the Brushfire mind and ready to get some information. Let's talk. It's been a week, baby. It has been a hell of a week. Tonight we're going to talk about a little bit about Colin Kaepernick. I want to have a conversation about how the criticism comes through, and of course, I've got my specialist on tap that knows a little bit more about football than I do. I'm not a football guy. I know, big manly me. I'm just not real big on the football. But as I understand it, Kaepernick just sucks, and that's a large part of why he can't get a job. Now, there's some politics in it, obviously. But we'll get back to Kaepernick in a minute. We're going to talk about Sheriff Joe tonight. We're going to talk about the hurricane a little bit. And because the lefties keep coming back to it, I'm going to keep reminding you on the whole Charlottesville thing, the neo-Nazis and all that stuff. We're going to talk about that a little more. But let's get started with Sheriff Joe. So the Donald pardoned Sheriff Joe. And you know what? I'll talk to you about Sheriff Joe in just a second. Sharon, I got to yell at you. You're in trouble. Mer, 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 mer. Basically, I haven't sent you your coffee cup yet. You sent me your address, but you didn't tell me which cup you want. So I need you to look into it and tell me which cup you want to get. If you want to wait a little bit, I've got some new designs coming out. If you want to wait to see those, Lucas, good to see you. Good to see you in the show there, brother. Your cup is on the way. You should have it in. I think Tuesday it should be there for you. So I hope you enjoy it, and when you get it, definitely send me a message, and we'll try to get you on the show with us. You can show off your shiny new swag, and talk about how awesome it is to have a Brushfire Mind coffee cup. Yes, the Truth Skull. That's the one. Oh, okay. Sharon wants the enemy is filled with chewy nougats cup. Okay, Roger that. I'll send it out right after the show tonight. You should have it. You should have it before the end of the week. Awesome. So tonight we're talking about just a week of crap. So Sheriff Joe, the pardoning of Sheriff Joe has been criticized. One criticism that's just absurd is that the Donald waited for a hurricane so that he could hide the pardoning of Sheriff Joe. I'm like, you know what? Screw you guys. I'm sure that's exactly what he was just praying for East Texas to get murdered by 50 inches of rainfall in a 48-hour period. Guys, this is a millennial storm. 50 inches of rainfall. We are going to hear about this all week. And when the gas prices go up at the pump, I'll just be like, nope, I get it. Sometimes you wonder if they're gouging. Yeah, nearly 5 foot of rain in 2 days. Yeah, no. That's why we own canoes. So, when we talk about Sheriff Joe, we see these headlines about how Sheriff Joe, of course, come on in, Cameron. Better late than never. Okay. So, and Steve, if you're watching, love you, brother. Miss you. Can't wait to get you back on the show next week. And if you're not watching, you need to go unfuck yourself and watch the show. Love you. All these headlines, there have been all these headlines that read something about how Arpaio, in controversial racial profiling case. No. That is exactly as correct in the way of reporting as reporting that 3 died, including 2 police officers, amid white supremacist violence in Charlottesville. It is a deliberate lie. It's not even inaccurate. It is an outright lie. What he was busted for was refusing the orders of a judge who ordered him to cease and desist the enforcement. I would like to remind you before I finish this sentence that Sheriff Joe Arpaio is a law enforcement officer, to cease and desist the enforcement of federal law. So kind of in that same sphere, about a week and a half ago, we had this news conference from Rahm Emanuel. Y'all remember Rahm Emanuel, right?
Rombo Deadfish?
Yeah. I mean, Chi-Town shitburger. Let's not mix words on this. And he comes out and says that we're going to be a sanctuary city because of the cost. Because what? Well, Donald Trump is just demanding that we spend our local resources on doing his job for. No, horse. That's not even just a lie. That's 180 degrees from the exact truth. Because the truth is that what's required of him by federal law is that if his law enforcement officers arrest or incarcerate a criminal alien, a hostile foreign invader who has been arrested for committing a separate crime after the commission of the crime of being a hostile foreign invader, then they're required to turn him over to ICE to be dealt with and deported, hopefully. So it is literally the opposite of the truth. What the Donald is demanding of those cities is that they allow the federal government to come in and overtake the cost of prosecuting these criminal aliens after they're arrested on separate crimes. It's just amazing to me.
You know, you talk about federal crimes. One of the things that first really jumped out at me about this is a lot of drug laws are based on federal law. And nobody ever says, oh, you can't arrest the crack dealer. And a lot of banking laws, again, are based on federal law. And nobody ever says, oh, you can't arrest the con man. But for some reason, if you're deliberately trying to target people that might be related to MS-13 or human trafficking or whatever, now all of a sudden, hey, that's the federal government's purview and you should stay out of it. You got no business doing that because basically you're a racist. Because if you're going to kick out Mexicans, you have to kick out people that look like Mexicans, and that just means you're racially profiling. So let me just say something for me, not even for the Brushfire mind, but for me. Let me just drop a hard reality about life on everybody. Everybody profiles everything. And if you don't, or if you don't think you do, you're a fool. If you want a steak dinner, you don't pull into Taco Bell for your steak dinner. You pull into Outback or Ruth's Chris if your bank account's looking the right way. But you don't pull into Taco Bell because you profiled the restaurant. You wanted a specific result, and you understood that certain markers walking in were more likely to give you that result than others. Ergo, yes, there were times when Joe Arpaio deliberately targeted people that looked like they might be illegal Mexicans. Because that's his job! You want your cops to profile. Don't kid yourself. You want them to profile their ass off. You also want your intelligence agencies to profile their ass off. You want your military to profile its ass off. And even in your own personal life, as you choose the church you go to, the friends you hang out with, the family members you choose to associate with, you profile every single situation because you don't want to be in a position that you don't want to be in. And if you don't profile, you can't guarantee that you won't end up there.
Yeah, and y'all are going to love how I tie this conversation into Kaepernick. So let me hit that real quick about federal law versus state law. I'm going to talk about drug law for just a second and refer back to this in context. Like like you said, enforcement of law. There are states, Washington, Colorado. There's several states now that have decriminalized recreational marijuana.
Good for them.
Sort of. I'm a little bit of two minds on this, because on the one hand, those states are actually doing something similar to the sanctuary cities, whom I'm absolutely opposed to.
They passed legislation.
Well, there's a distinction. There's a major distinction here.
Okay.
It's not just the legislation that they passed. It's more important than that. The states that have decriminalized marijuana, I actually support the decriminalization of marijuana. However, the rule of law also matters. And where this gets really confusing for me, the facts of the matter are not confusing to me. My feeling on the matter is complex, because the fact of the matter is this: it is unconstitutional for there to exist federal laws regarding the acquisition, consumption, and distribution of substances. There is no authority in the Constitution for there to be any prohibition of substance at the federal level. There's a reason that it took an amendment to institute the prohibition of alcohol and another amendment to repeal that prohibition. So what we have is a federal government that is in open defiance of the contract that we have constructed to restrain it. The federal government is in open defiance of the law by instituting federal drug prohibition policy. But the states which are in open defiance of that are in fact in open defiance of the law. So I'm absolutely 100%. If I had my way, the federal government just wouldn't be in open defiance of the fucking law. And I apologize. I'm a little F wordy.
That's
tonight.
a couple of F words this evening. You're all over the place, man.
I got a little. I'm on fire, baby. I'm on fire.
You're on Brushfire.
I'm not reprimanded.
So for Cage family and friends, we love you. Thanks for watching. If you do, and I apologize for the bombs, but there's stuff going on.
The only ones who watch are the ones who drop them. We good.
Well,
So,
I think there's another distinction, though. It is actually part of the Constitution to protect the borders.
that's what I was getting at. The federal law dealing with criminal aliens, it is the actual purview. I mean, Adam Smith legitimate purview of the federal government to defend our borders from hostile foreign hordes. Yeah, Sharon, I know you love us and you're comfortable with my foul mouth, but I try not to get. I don't want to get quite as deep as Bering does into the rating war. Although I love his content. But the federal government absolutely has the mandate to defend the border. And that's why there's no black and white for me on the question of the sanctuary cities. The sanctuary cities are an open rebellion. Sanctuary cities are criminal institutions. They should be treated, every sanctuary city should be treated exactly as if it were the mob, as if it were any other organized criminal syndicate, because that is exactly what they are. In fact, I'll go one further. They're an organized criminal syndicate actively engaged in human trafficking by actively incentivizing and subsidizing criminal border crossing. And every sanctuary city should be treated like a separate individual criminal syndicate. And every elected official in a position of power, that's it. Damn it, Legion. Legion said Rico. Yes, every single elected official in a sanctuary city should be RICO'd. They should be incarcerated under RICO statutes for criminal collusion to subvert federal immigration law. Period.
You know, there's something else too. I happen to think, for me personally, that illegal immigration is actually pretty closely tied to slavery. It's not politically correct to point out that the first quote unquote slaves in this country were white guys from Ireland. They were these things called indentured servants, where they basically said, I'm going to throw away 5, 7, 10 years of my life, make almost nothing, and literally almost nothing. However, you're going to pay for me to move to America, bring my family with me. I'm going to work in your fields until I'm almost dead, but then you're going to let me go. And that's indentured servitude. And every single time you go pick up a Mexican from Home Depot and pay him $50, $100 to work all day for you, you're technically paying him less than minimum wage. Ergo, he is an indentured servant. Ergo, it's slavery. It is slavery.
Well, for one, if you're paying him $100 for a day, you don't work him over 12 hours. You're still paying minimum wage.
Besides the fact that it's under the table, no taxes are taken out.
That yes.
And the one of the biggest problems that people don't talk about with that particular thing is that it is the mostly white contractors, business owners, construction crews, wallpaper guys, whatever, who are the ones pulling into these gas stations and loading up with Mexicans and underbidding other contractors and taking jobs because they're paying under the table.
Well,
and honest people are losing jobs. They're missing out on jobs as a result of this.
Well, yeah, because drywall's worth at least $12 an hour. But why? When you go hand somebody a $100 bill and you get them for 10, 12, 14 hours?
Right. And they're getting paid more, by the way, than they would with their doctorates and so forth in Mexico. There are dentists and pediatricians and so forth that are making more here by getting money illegally under the table than they would be in their practice in their home country.
Kate, I knew a guy once working at McDonald's. This guy was a dishwasher, and
it's going really well.
You could, yeah, it is, isn't it? You could tell by talking to him that this was a sharp guy. And I asked him one time, why are you here? Why aren't you back in Mexico? And he explained that he actually owned a business in Mexico. And he made more money at $6 an hour. And this was when minimum wage was $5.15 an hour. So this guy was actually making 85 cents over. But he made more money, $6 an hour, washing dishes at McDonald's.
Taxed $6 an hour.
Taxed $6 an hour. On the flip side, I've also worked in some other kitchens where the dishwashers worked 60 hours a week. They didn't get paid overtime because they were illegal. And if they complained about it, well, they were shown the door. They'd hire another illegal alien and would pay them minimum wage for 60 hours a week. And if they asked about the overtime, that one was out the door. Not to mention all the other stuff that goes along with it, with the human trafficking and MS-13 and all that other garbage.
Well, the lefties don't want to deal with human trafficking and MS-13 and all that stuff because their little peckers just stand straight up at the thought of white slavery. They love it.
Yeah, I still think they love putting colored people in bonds. They just can't admit it anymore.
People of color.
I'm sorry, POC. My bad.
Sweet.
I just love that. I love. What color is this house? What color is it?
I don't
Bluish.
even remember. It's dirty.
Bluish. So it's the house.
It's dirty color.
It's the house of blue. It's not the blue house, you racist. It's
Casa
the house
Azul.
of blue. Yes.
Yeah, La Casa Azul.
Right. Let's not get that mixed up, by the way. You can drop F-bombs all day long, but by God, you're going to get the color thing right.
So,
I shut Cameron up.
Not
So-
possible.
I didn't think so.
let me tie this all back to Kaepernick. For
Is
just a minute.
Kaepernick a person of color?
No.
He has several colors. I don't know what they are.
If Kaepernick's complaints are valid, then the NFL is 100% white, which
Well,
includes him.
Actually, you know what though? Speaking of colors, Kaepernick's not wearing any team colors right now, is he?
No. And that's what I wanted to point out. We keep hearing there's all this crap going on about the NAACP boycotting the NFL until Kaepernick gets a job, and they're pushing this ridiculous narrative about how it's so unfair, it's so racist that he got fired for voicing his opinion, blah 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 blah. He quit. He didn't get fired. He didn't lose his job. He dropped it. He left money on the table and walked away. Now,
Wait, when?
originally,
He was cut by the Niners. I'm pretty sure.
nope.
He wasn't. I didn't think
That's
he was
what-
cut. I thought
that's
he was benched. He was going to get paid millions to ride the bench.
Oh no, he was benched before he even started protesting.
Right. He was benched for being a shitty player before he even started protesting.
He was the quarterback of a Super Bowl team
Once.
and then only went straight downhill from there. Now it is fair to point out he with his current skill set is still better than a good chunk of the backup, the bench warming quarterbacks, the third string quarterbacks, whatever. But why would you want that controversy on your team? Why would you want someone who you could not count on to concentrate on their jobs because they had other things on their mind? Because they had other.
Well, let's be. Look, I actually agree with that.
Hey, wait a minute. We just got somebody else logged in. We got Nick Hendricks on the line. So let me plug him. My buddy Nick's watching us right now. And if you're local here where we live,
Oh, he turned down their contract offer. Okay, the Nick from the Niners, right? So he turned down their contract offer.
they're on a little bit of a delay, so it'll take them
Right,
forever to
right.
answer you.
Yeah, I know.
But anyway, Nick will take care of you. Go see him on 138 at the Express Auto Lube. Go get your tires, get your oil changes. Where I get my shit done, and Nick is the man. Plus, there's it's either a Captain D's or a Long John Silver right next door. I'll pull through, grab lunch, and they'll change my oil while I sit in my truck and eat my lunch. It's perfect. So, love you, brother, and thanks for watching.
And look, let's be real clear about part of what's going on with Kaepernick here. It's not just taking the knees, and it's not just this BLM bullshit or any of that. It is.
Express Oil Change and Tire Engineers. That's what it is.
He started shopping himself around, and one of the places that he looked at real hard that desperately needed a new quarterback was Miami. Now we're going to just take a little sideways trip here and talk about this guy named Jay Cutler, a white guy. That's important. Remember, Jay Cutler's white. Jay Cutler, quarterback for the Chicago Bears for some time.
The Bears.
The Bears. Good quarterback, but just couldn't ever put it together. Not that he was a terrible quarterback, but as far as going far into the playoffs, making it to the Super Bowl, winning conferences, stuff like that, just didn't happen for Jay Cutler. You almost feel bad for the guy because if you see a picture of him, you know exactly who he is. He's got this permanent kind of hangdog look. He is droopy dog, man. I mean, going down.
He looks either stoned or hungover 100% of the
like
time.
perpetually, like he had
Yes.
tequila for breakfast.
If he did not dress in clothing that we could not afford, one would think he was homeless.
So anyhow,
So he's got resting bitch face that came out of a plastic tequila bottle.
No, he's got resting I don't give a fuck face.
Whatever
Anyway.
it is, you look like you could hit him with a 2x4 and he wouldn't even feel it. So he retires from the Bears and signs himself a juicy little contract to be a sports commentator. But decides, you know what, I love me some football. These Miami Dolphins guys need a quarterback. I'm going to try out for it. Same team that Colin Kaepernick tried out for. Jay Cutler, despite basically being over the hill, as it were, got the job. And Kaepernick did not.
He's a better quarterback.
Well,
No, he's white, Kate.
Yeah, I was
It's
gonna say-
obviously because he's white.
Oh yeah, sorry.
obviously in the NFL,
Sorry,
where
you're right. Yeah.
in the NFL, which is 60% black, it was the decision was entirely racist.
So what's really mixed in here with Colin Kaepernick is not just the fact that he was kind of a one-trick pony. It was an amazing trick, but after that Super Bowl appearance, it is correct to say that his performance declined.
We didn't have a Harbaugh leading him anymore.
I don't even think it was Harbaugh.
But Legion said this is absolutely correct. Kaepernick does not have a job because his mediocre skill as a quarterback does not offset the controversy he courts on and off the field.
And
That is absolutely correct.
That is, you are 1,000% correct. There's a guy named Ray Lewis that played for the Ravens, ended his career with a Super Bowl appearance. Y'all, Ray Lewis helped stab some people in Buckhead, and if he didn't help stab them, he at least helped hide the bodies. Y'all, you don't end up with blood all over your clothes by accident. That's just not what happens.
He beat Kaepernick in that Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, man, how apropos, Kate. Thanks. However, Ray Lewis kicked ass all the way up to the last second.
Phew, buddy.
So now, is it right? Is it fair? Whatever. But the point is, he had the talent to offset what looked like at least conspiracy after the fact to cover up a murder, if not actually being directly involved in the murder.
All right, so why do I bring up Kaepernick? And how does that relate to Charlottesville? Y'all gonna love this. What happened in Charlottesville? A bunch of shitheads got together to make a bunch of noise. And by a bunch, apparently it's like 200 people. So, not a whole lot. And the lefties, your Black Lives Matter, your Antifa, your Black Bloc guys, just like they did when they went to shut down Milo Yiannopoulos, just like they did when they went to call poor Ben Shapiro, who's a Jew, a Nazi. That's right. Apparently, Jewish Ben Shapiro is the leader of the new Nazi party, according to these lefty nutburgers. They went to shut down their speech. They went to steal their First Amendment rights. Kaepernick takes a knee to say that America is a racist country. I believe that a black man can't get ahead, even though I'm in an organization that's 60% black millionaires. Everything's racist and there's no meritocracy. Okay, well then how did we get 60? So
now it boils down to
hang on. Let me finish this.
Okay, go.
So that's what he throws out there. And when Kaepernick decides to say, I hate America because it's a bunch of racists, and then guys like us come back and say, you're out of your mind. America's not a racist country. America's a beautiful country where clearly you have had every opportunity. Opportunity abounds, and it's a perfectly wonderful country. The response from the lefties who want to support him is not, well, here's the studies, here's the statistics, here's even the anecdotal evidence. No. Their response is to accuse us of attempting to shut down his freedom of speech. Well, he has the right to say it. I didn't say he didn't. You're breaking out with an absolute red herring. I said that the speech he has made is wrong. His opinion is data point for data point, verifiably fallacious and incorrect. He can be wrong all he wants. But, sweetheart, when you're wrong, you don't have the right. If you express your opinion to me, my First Amendment says I get to throw it right back at you. You do not have the right of freedom from criticism. You have the absolute right to speak freely. You are not free from criticism. You're free to walk away and ignore it. You're free to continue to be an idiot and not grow by examining legitimate criticism and making decisions. You might examine my criticism, decide I'm completely crazy, and what you learn from that is something about me, in your opinion, and maybe better develop your capacity to defend your own position. But when your argument to criticism of your speech is that you're trying to shut down my speech, you're not wrong anymore. You're a liar. You're just flat dishonest. Or potentially stupid. One of the arguments that I made repeatedly with regard to Barack Obama and his continued failures is that you cannot consistently fail in the face of consistent, legitimate criticism and advice. We're constantly telling you, if you do X, Y, and Z with Obamacare, then this will be the result. If you pull the troops out too fast, then there will be a thing that's, Sarah Palin predicted ISIS almost to giving it a name.
No, Sarah Palin's a big moron. Chris,
Yeah.
what are you talking about?
She could see her house from Russia.
Pew, pew, pew.
Which Tina Fey said.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you cannot fail that consistently unless either you're impaired, you're just flat stupid, or the negative outcome is the intended result. Consistent negative outcomes are not the result of consistent positive work. It's just the two things are incompatible.
Let me try and put that in really plain language.
Good luck.
No, look, even really, really dumb people eventually figure out that the stove is hot and that the paint is wet and that the water will drown you. And Sharon, you're exactly right. The left are a bunch of sissies. If they were not, they would be able to intellectually argue their points. Instead, they have to get upset. They have to get animated. Everything has to be...
They have to scream louder.
That's right.
Than the people at whom they are screaming.
That's right, because that's how you win. Because if the other person stops arguing with you, you win by default.
Right, and that, like Legion mentions the ad hominem, and that's exactly right. It is pathetic, and that's why the Charlottesville thing is so desperately important to the left. They need all of us to be Nazis because they're trying to do it again. And in order for the left to do what the left does, it needs an enemy to hate. That's why Bernie Sanders' campaign was all about the evil 1 or 2%. And Hillary's campaign was all about the basket of deplorables. And Barack Obama's campaign was about killing all the white people.
Vilify.
Read Mein Kampf. Hitler picked the Jews not because he hated Jews, but because he needed an enemy to rally the country against. And at the time, they happened to have a lot of money. What Hitler really turned the Germans against was the bankers and the rich people. Now, that's an oversimplification, but it's still essentially true. And what's going on, the reason Charlottesville is so important now, is the Democrat Party, and don't get, I know this sounds contrived, but the evidence is overwhelming. As much as the alt-right, neo-Nazis, white supremacists are not the mainstream of the conservative wing of America, the BLMs, the feminazis, and all those guys, they very much are the mainstream. While Donald Trump was actively denouncing and refuting the KKK and David Duke and all those guys during the campaign cycle, Hillary and Bernie were fighting with each other over who would get the Black Lives Matter support. And at the end of the day, what they're trying to do is the Democrats have decided that the swastika is their new Star of David, and they are going to sort you out for your thought crimes and tattoo that brand on your face.
It's not just that. I actually think it runs a little deeper than that. Every single time a violent thing happened, there was this rush to judgment. Was it a Tea Party member? Was it a conservative? Was it some kind of libertarian freedom fighter?
Fueled by the mainstream media who are telling you who it is.
But I just want to ask, since Trump has been president, how many political terrorists have actually accomplished murder or very near murder in this country? So far, to my recollection, there could be something that I'm forgetting. Probably not, because y'all, I'm really smart and not ashamed of it. But wasn't the guy that shot up that ball field that had Steve Scalise and Rand Paul and everybody, wasn't that a Bernie supporter? Where's the Trump supporter that pulled out a rifle on a group of Democrat congressmen playing a baseball game? A baseball game!
For charity.
Charity.
Now, and I would say, let's be careful with that, because then we open it up to the left to say, well, it was only one guy in Charlottesville, and he was a member of the white supremacist group. However, here's the problem. Here's the problem with that argument. And no, we're not saying that all Bernie bots are murderous thugs. That's not what we're saying. However, no one on the right said, by any means necessary.
Bam!
That's key. Bernie Sanders, out of his own mouth, said, what is it? We have to stop him at Trump?
By any means necessary. Yep.
He gave them the fuel. 200 crazy neo-Nazis didn't give this guy the fuel. And I don't, no pun intended, because it was a Dodge Challenger that he took. But Bernie Sanders specifically said to anyone who was anti-Trump, we have to stop him by any means necessary.
Well, and that whole narrative thing, we've talked about amorphous warfare, 5th and 6th generation warfare on this channel before. You create that narrative, and instead of giving orders to your subordinates in how to conduct war from their position in the order of battle, you create the atmosphere where they will make the presumption of what is expected. That's how Lois Lerner got her orders from the White House to conduct strategic targeting of conservative, and most especially libertarian and Tea Party groups,
in particular,
with tax scams, shutting down, preventing them from getting their tax-exempt status as nonprofit organizations. Barack Obama never called Lois Lerner and said, hey, I want you to screw these guys.
He didn't have to.
He explained it to the world that he wanted everybody in a position to do it. He made his people understand and believe that it would be an acceptable sacrifice at the altar of his ecumenical politics.
Real quick, I want to, Nick and Legion, I just want to respond to something that both of you have said. Nick, you appear to be right. So far, the only footage that I can find of what you're talking about is grainy, and it is difficult to see. But it sure does look like some type of club-like object hit this guy's car before he went nuts and started running people down. Now,
provocation of that type does not equal license to murder.
I'm actually going to strongly disagree with that. Don't you ever surround my car. Don't you ever do it. Don't you ever, ever, ever do it. If you surround my car and you start punching my car, I might just run you over.
Yeah, run you over. If he had hit the person with the baseball bat, this wouldn't even be a conversation. I'd be rooting for him to get released from prison. But he drove into a crowd of people.
Okay, so hang on. Before we argue it, let me clarify. What Cameron is talking about is a crowd of people surrounding the car, and I agree 100%. If my car gets surrounded by a crowd of people wearing black masks and wielding weapons, I will roll down the window and I will start unloading the firearm that I have at hand while driving through the crowd until I have gotten myself to safety. That's assuming I'm surrounded by a crowd that is a threat. With the guy in Charlottesville, as far as I could see in the videos, it does look like he was provoked by being hit by somebody hitting him with a baseball bat, but he was not surrounded. He drove into a crowd which was not surrounding him, 2 blocks away.
And look,
so
and I appreciate that.
I agree with you 100% on the whole surrounded thing. Yes.
Maybe he's,
and I do too.
And look, and maybe he should be charged with a crime, and maybe he should go to prison. Yes. And if that's the way it shakes out in a court of law, I will accept it and I will be happy with it. But I sit there and I ask myself, if I've got a bunch of BLM guys around my car that are not afraid to chant things like pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. And my dad is a cop. Pigs in a blanket means cops in a body bag. That is a very specific, targeted insult. And then you've got these Antifa psychos on top of it. People wearing black masks, throwing urine and bricks and all this other stuff. I can't say with an absolute certitude that I would not have acted the same way this guy did. Now, to be fair, I never would have showed up at a white supremacist rally in the first place because, I mean, how well do you think that shit's going to work out? But at the same time, you start hitting the guy's car, and as somebody else has pointed out in the chat, that it really does look like the cops funneled all of these protest groups together, which, I mean, everybody had to know was going to work out a certain way. But still, I just, don't hit my car with a baseball bat. Don't do it.
And the second-degree murder thing, is that not where crimes of passion fall? Second degree?
I'm actually not sure on that one.
Because first-degree murder is premeditated.
Right.
Like that all falls under there. So second-degree murder is what he should be charged with. It was a crime of passion. Provocation equals crime of passion. A baseball bat against your car doesn't equal mowing down a group of people 2 blocks away. So he should be charged, but it also should be second-degree murder. It was, provocation calls for second degree. He didn't just show up with a challenger and sit back and wait till they were in a group and then take off. I mean, clearly. But
if you read the headlines are essentially, man drives from Ohio at 175 miles an hour directly into protest.
Just hitting people left and right.
I came here to murder people and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of bubble gum.
Jesus. So the alt-right is not white supremacist, says Legion. Absolutely correct. The white supremacy movement, i.e. white William Pierce, James Mason died in the late 80s. This brings up a good point. This is not making that point, but I just to say this. I was having a conversation. My boss is black and my coworker is black, and we were talking about Charlottesville. And they talked about these neo-Nazis and these white supremacists and these white nationalists and KKK and all that as being this legitimate threat that had to be taken on. If anything, these people showing up en masse, which is a hilarious term to use there, proved how small they were as a crowd and how little of a threat they actually pose. They're a small group. It's like when you get online and you're like, don't pay attention to the haters. That's basically what they are. They don't matter. Let them have their moment. They got a petition. They did things the right way, and not the alt-right way, but the correct way. And they did what they were going to do. They had their little moment, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's freedom of speech. But that brings me back to something that you were talking about, Chris, about let's say 10 minutes ago.
Probably more than that. The show's supposed to be over in 4 minutes.
Oh yeah. So, but you went on this beautiful rant about how you have the right to free speech as well, to counter their free speech, right? That's correct. Obviously, that's correct. That's what the First Amendment says.
Yeah,
in every group.
And the antidote to bad speech is more speech.
Right. So, but here's the thing: where does free speech end? Where does free speech become illegal? At what point?
It's very clearly defined in the Constitution.
But terroristic threats are where it stops. Correct?
Right.
You cannot go. Hate speech is even protected.
Well, calls to action.
Calls to action.
That's how you.
But
get,
I can't say I'm
that's
going
how
to
you
kill
get
you and not be arrested for it.
Right. That's how you get the fire in a crowded theater rule.
Yes. Right.
You know, it's
so
free speech doesn't allow you to cause a riot with your speech.
So what's happening though is the left is taking all forms of anything they disagree with, and they're pushing it. They're pushing it over the cliff into the hate speech chasm. And then they're going to push it even farther into the bottomless pit that is terroristic threats. And that's what they're getting to. They're trying to get to the point where anything that is said can be they're already calling everything racism. Everything's racism. Everything's racist. I don't want coffee today. Why? Because coffee's black? You racist.
You racist.
Oh, I want more cream in my coffee. Of course you do.
Hey, I prefer my coffee black. I like it black, hot, and strong.
I like my coffee like I like my women. Cheap.
Oh my God. Anyway,
I'll be sure to tell your wife you said that.
Oh,
that's the point. If you and what's so funny about it, and it's not funny, haha, it's funny, tragic. Is that the accusations are constantly Nazi, fascist. That's what they throw at us, right? And what they're pushing for, what their ultimate goal is complete shutting down of free speech that they don't agree with, which is the very definition, speech-wise, of Nazism, fascism.
No, you're stopping short. You're stopping short. That's where all this microaggression, all that shit comes from. The objective is not just to shut down the free speech of dissenting views. Mm-hmm. The objective, the very, very clear objective, is to have speech defined as violence.
That's my point.
So that a dissenting opinion,
they're pushing it into terroristic threat.
If you just, right, the point is that if your opinion is dissenting of the mainstream leftist narrative, then what you have done by speaking your mind is committed an assault, which justifies actual physical violent retaliation. That's the objective.
Right.
They're working very hard. That's why we keep hearing about the punch a Nazi. They keep talking about punching Nazis, and then they keep trying to conflagrate frickin'
You got tripped up on that word, conflagrate.
Yeah, and that's not even the word.
In his defense.
Well, I was quoting you, sir.
They keep trying to conflate conservatism
there it is.
with Nazism, which is utterly fallacious. It's again 180 degrees away from the truth. And they must do this. They must do this in order to create a lawful justification for the active use of violence, because the left is violence. The left is greed and violence and sloth. Their entire egalitarian construct is based on the assertion that one can be morally comfortable with the forcible taking of private property from free citizens to the benefit of other people based on just their breathing. allowing them the right to its acquisition.
And now they're
And
trying to
that
make
is absolute fallacy.
and now they're trying to make objecting to that
Yes.
illegal.
And now they're trying to make objecting
Like
to
I
that
said,
a crime.
if you make objection, if you make argument, hate speech, any argument that you disagree with, hate speech, the next step is terroristic threats. To the point where we can't do this show without the FBI knocking on our door. Basically. I mean, that's the end. What other end game could there be? We're not conspiracy theorists by throwing this out there. I mean, this is clear.
I would actually argue that the First Amendment specifically protected the guys in Charlottesville. They got their permit. And let's not forget, part of what they were trying to do was to march around this statue so that the statue didn't get pulled down. As far as I'm concerned, I have a very libertarian bent on this. If you want to put up a statue of Mao or, I don't know, Che Guevara or whatever leftist hero, do it on your dime. But if the public dollars have already been spent to put it up, don't tear it down. That just costs more money.
I was about to say,
It's a waste of
don't
time.
waste my tax money to do it.
And that's part of what these guys were doing is they're trying to protect these statues because, I mean, we forget that that in the 40s, laws were passed that basically recognized Confederate soldiers as vets. All of this was amended by, in fact, Abraham Lincoln, who said, if I really want to defeat my enemies, and I'm paraphrasing people, look it up yourself, but if I really want to defeat my enemies, I'd turn them into my friends, because what better way can I defeat my enemies? And a lot of what was done here, yeah, some of these statues were put up as a big thumb in the eye of the civil rights movement. There's no question about that. But there were other statues that were put up because people were like, you know, my granddaddy was Robert E. Lee, and my whole family told me he was a good man. I just want to bring it back to Stone Mountain real quick here in Georgia. Stone Mountain has got carvings of Confederate generals on the side of the mountain. And massive. It took them like 20 years to make these carvings.
Specifically, Stonewall Jackson, Robert E. Lee, and President Jefferson Davis.
That's correct. Well, I don't know about President Jefferson Davis, but we're not going to quibble over a little point.
Well, he was the president of the Confederacy.
Yeah, okay. Anyhow, if you've ever been to Stone Mountain, they do this thing that they're real proud of called the laser show. You got to wait till after dark. And it's got fireworks. It's got music. It's actually a hell of a production. It's worth checking out.
And lasers of all colors, by the way. Very diverse selection of lasers.
Yes.
That's right. But would that be LOC? Lasers of color?
Well,
yes,
yeah,
right, correct. Not colored lasers, you racist.
In defense of the liberal position on Stone Mountain, there are no black lasers in the presentation.
Because they do it at night.
Well, there are no white lasers either.
Actually, yes.
Yeah, there are.
Yes, there are.
Well, I haven't been in a few years. What I'm driving at is, if you go and you watch the laser show, it's a smorgasbord of kind of trippy special effects. There's a lot of nostalgia. There's all sorts of good old-fashioned Americana, and every single laser show ends the same way.
Not anymore.
The South doesn't surrender at the end of the laser show anymore.
No, I'm talking about when they animate the horses with the guys on them and the Confederate flag is waving. That's what it was when we were kids. Ended every time and they played Dixieland.
Yes, and they surrendered. They break the sword and surrender.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they don't do that anymore.
The show really doesn't end. Well, guys, for a long time, what happened was these Confederate guys basically surrendered. And part of the point was that this was reconciliation, that this was brotherly love. So if we're really going to take these carvings off Stone Mountain, which a few knuckleheads have suggested, all the context that goes along with it, with the fact that they did surrender and so forth and so on, goes right out the window with it. Man, you know what? You killed me with your black lasers, Chris. I had a whole lot more to say about it, but you wrecked me.
Well, well, y'all, it's already after 2100. We've pushed out tonight. Hey, thanks for watching tonight. Make sure you, if you're not already subscribed, make sure you subscribe. Share the shit out of this. We need to get bigger. We need to blow the show up a little bit more.
Because YouTube's not
real
helping.
quick before we kill it tonight, I played with the settings a bit. How's the text look on the screen above my head to you guys? Go ahead. Somebody give me a comment about that. Make sure you leave some comments under the video itself. The live chat is separate from the comments below. So please, once you sign off, make sure you go back, open the show again, leave some comments in the comments section for us. Help us increase our traffic here. We love you. We appreciate you coming to watch the show every week. And we will see you next week. And until then, remember, if you build a man a fire, you'll keep him warm for the evening. But if you set a man on fire, he'll be warm for the rest of his life. Good night.